You pick it up without thinking. You don't even know why. 1 second you're sitting still, and the next your hand has already moved, your thumb already unlocking the screen before your brain caught up to what your body was doing. You weren't bored. You weren't waiting for anything. You just checked your phone. And here's what's strange. There was nothing there. So, why did you do it? The answer isn't weak willpower. It isn't laziness or addiction in the way most people mean that word. The answer reaches back millions of years into a version of you that never held a phone, never touched a screen, never even heard music, and yet was already wired, already primed, already perfectly built to do exactly what you just did. Your brain is not broken. It is working exactly as designed. The problem is that the design is ancient and the world it was built for no longer exists. Start with a number. The average person checks their phone around 96 times per day. That's once every 10 minutes. Some studies put it higher. Researcher Daskout tracked over 4,000 phone interactions per day among heavy users. Not time spent on apps, but the number of times fingers touched the screen. 4,000 touches in a single day. That is not a habit. That is a reflex. To understand where that reflex comes from, you need to go back to a time before walls, before roofs, before fire was something you could reliably control. Imagine you are standing in an open landscape. Grass in every direction, a tree line in the distance, the sound of wind moving through it. You are watching. Not for anything specific, just watching. Because in that world, something new in the environment usually meant one of two things: food or death. Your brain evolved to scan, constantly, automatically, without effort. The moment something changed in your visual field, a rustle, a shadow, a movement, your attention snapped to it before you consciously decided to look. Neuroscientists call this the orienting response. It is involuntary, it is fast, and it kept your ancestors alive long enough to become your ancestors. The orienting response is still inside you. It never left. Now put a glowing rectangle in your hand that lights up, buzzes, pings, shows movement, shows new faces, shows new words, dozens of times an hour. Every one of those signals is a trigger. Every ping says, something changed. Every notification is a rustle in the grass. Your 300,000-year-old brain cannot tell the difference between a text message and a predator. It responds to both the same way. It snaps to attention. It checks. But that's only the first layer. There's a deeper mechanism underneath, and it has to do with uncertainty. In 2018, neuroscientist Rob Rutledge at University College London published a study showing that the human brain does not respond most powerfully to getting rewards. It responds most powerfully to the possibility of rewards, the anticipation, the not yet knowing. When you do not know whether a reward is coming, your brain releases more dopamine, not less. The unpredictability itself is what drives the response. This is why a slot machine is more addictive than a vending machine. The vending machine always gives you what you paid for. The slot machine might. That uncertainty creates a feedback loop your brain cannot easily walk away from. Your phone is a slot machine. Every time you pick it up, you don't know what you'll find. Maybe nothing. Maybe a funny video. Maybe a message from someone you care about. Maybe something that makes you angry. Maybe something that makes you feel seen. The variability is the point. B.F. Skinner demonstrated in the 1950s that variable reward schedules, rewards that come unpredictably rather than consistently, produced the most persistent behavior in his subjects. They kept pressing the lever not because they always got a reward, but because they sometimes did. The behavior became almost impossible to extinguish. Skinner was working with pigeons, but the mechanism he found does not care what species you are. Every refresh of a social feed, every swipe, every tap, you are pressing the lever, and your brain keeps asking, maybe this time, Now here is where it gets stranger. The phone doesn't just exploit ancient survival wiring. It exploits something even more fundamental: your need for social information. Humans are intensely social animals, not in a casual sense, in a survival critical sense. For most of human history, being cut off from your group meant death. You could not hunt large animals alone. You could not protect your children alone. You could not survive a harsh winter alone. The group was everything, and to stay in the group, you needed information. Who was angry at whom? Who was forming alliances? Who had food? Who needed help? Who was sick? Who was a threat? Social information was survival information, and your brain treated it that way. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar at the University of Oxford spent decades studying social bonding in primates and humans. He found that humans consistently maintain meaningful social groups of around 150 people, close relationships, acquaintances, extended networks, and that tracking all of those relationships requires enormous cognitive effort. He also found that grooming behavior, physical contact, shared glances, mutual attention, was how our primate ancestors maintained those bonds. In humans, language took over that function. And then, eventually, so did the screen. When you check your phone to see if someone replied, you are performing a form of social monitoring that your brain categorizes as essential. Not pleasant? Essential. The same part of your brain that once tracked who in your tribe was looking at you sideways is now tracking whether someone liked your post. The stakes feel different to you consciously. They do not feel different to the neural architecture underneath. And there is one more piece. Your phone does something that ancient social life could never do. It gives you an audience, always available, always potentially watching. Research by social psychologist Mark Leary at Duke University shows that humans have a deep need for what he calls sociometer feedback, real-time signals that tell you how you are being perceived by others. In ancestral environments, you got this feedback slowly: the expressions on people's faces, the tone of their voices, the way they moved toward or away from you. Now you get it in numbers, in little icons, in the count of who responded, who didn't, who saw it, who shared it. The feedback loop is instant, compulsive, quantified, and it taps into a monitoring system your brain runs constantly, beneath your awareness, tracking your social standing the way a thermostat tracks temperature. When that number goes up, it feels good. When it doesn't move, it feels like something is wrong. Neither feeling is the result of a decision. Both happen automatically, just like picking up the phone in the first place. The engineers who built these systems knew exactly what they were doing. Asa Raskin, who invented the infinite scroll, the feature that lets you swipe forever without stopping, later said publicly that he felt profound regret. Infinite scroll removed what researchers call a stopping cue, a natural moment where the behavior ends. Without stopping cues, the orienting response keeps firing. The slot machine keeps spinning. The social monitoring never gets to rest. This is not an accident. It is architecture. But understanding the architecture changes something. When you pick up your phone without knowing why, you are not revealing a flaw in your character. You are demonstrating that you have a brain that survived millions of years of uncertainty, predation, social complexity, and constant environmental change. The same machinery that helped your ancestors notice a lion in the grass is now firing at a notification icon. The brain didn't fail to adapt. It adapted too well, and then the world changed faster than evolution could follow. So the next time your hand moves before your mind does, before the screen lights up and the check begins again, notice what's happening. Not judgment, just recognition. Something new appeared in the environment. Your oldest systems woke up. They wanted to know if it was a threat or a reward. They wanted to know if your tribe was still there. They checked. And now, 10 seconds later, you have already forgotten you did it. Just like your ancestors forgot they scanned the horizon. The reflex ran. The coast was clear. And life continued. Slightly more anxious than before, in a world that never stops rustling.